So for our third example, we're going to try out using a thing called a variable. If you've taken algebra or things like that, you might remember what variables are. They're basically a placeholder for other information. In algebra, it was just other numbers. In computer science, a variable can hold any type of information. For our example, we're going to be holding a little bit of text. To get started with, we're going to need a place to put the information that we're going to store, and we can do that with what's called a text box. And we can write one of those almost the same way we made our button. We can go input type text. It's not going to have a value because we don't want it to say anything ahead of time. And it's not going to have an on click because we don't want to activate anything by clicking on this. What it is going to need to have is an ID so that when we're using the JavaScript, we know where on the page to get the information from, like where on the page the box is. So we'll give it the ID. We can just give it an ID like text box, something simple. This will put a text box on my page. That looks like this. And that's fine. If we want to activate any function that will use this text box, again, we're going to need a function call from some sort of event trigger. I'm just going to do a button again. I'll go input type is button, value is, I'll do click here for something different. On click is example3. So more or less what we had here, except for instead of example1, it's example3. So now I've got my box and my button. I need a place for the text to come out. So paragraph ID, ID3. We'll make it so when I am putting the information back onto the page, I'll be putting it here. So now we go to the JavaScript side. Function, example3. Just like everything else, the first step we need to do is get the information from the page that we want. We want the information in the text box, which was given the ID text box right here. So that's how we're going to access the information in that box. Document.getElement by ID, text box. Just like how we have up here. But instead of dot something like inner HTML, dot style, we are just going to go dot value. This will give us the value of the text box. We need somewhere to store it, and that somewhere is called a variable. So before this, we'll add var for variable, and then we give our variable a name. The name can be almost anything. Again, there are some reserved words. We could just name it something like inbox, because it's the thing that's in the box. Variable inbox equals document.getElement by ID, the text box value. What this allows us to do is it will allow us to use inbox instead of that entire rest of the stuff to access what's in the box. So I want to print out a sentence using that box onto my page. So just like how I did up here, it'll be document.getElement by ID, ID3, inner HTML. In order to use that variable in a sentence, I have to do what's called string concatenation. Now, I don't expect you to remember what that word is. All I expect you to remember is that you have to add parts of a sentence together. So in order to do that, I'll write the name of my variable, which will print whatever's written in there. I'll add to that, in quotation marks, whatever I want the rest of the sentence to be. So when I click on the button, I get the value into this variable from the text box, and it'll take whatever I put in that text box and add it to the rest of this sentence using string concatenation. So when I run this, if I put, say, my name in here, into the text box, click here, it will spit out the sentence, Devin is the best lab instructor in the world, because it takes what was in the box and adds to the rest of the sentence. And remember, if you've seen it on the internet, that must mean it's true. So, hopefully this helps you get started with the second assignment. If you have any problems, feel free to contact me at help100@uregina.ca, and I'll try to add a little bit more to the FAQ if you don't like contacting me because you're shy. But good luck, have a good fall break, and I hope everyone's keeping well and keeping happy.